Hi, I'm Chuck Marunde, exclusive buyer's agent in sunny Sequim, Washington. And today I'm going to answer a question that many retirees have when they're trying to decide where to live. Today we talk about taxes. So I'm going to answer some of those questions about Washington state taxes, Clallam County taxes, and Sequim taxes. If you're retiring in an area like Sequim, you certainly are looking at taxes. So if you're in California, you're trying to get away from the incredibly high taxes, including state income taxes. Well, you probably noticed Washington state. It crossed your radar because Washington state has no state income tax. However, there are other taxes, right? There are sales taxes, there's vehicle registration taxes, there's a fuel tax, and there are property taxes. So let's talk about those. I'll answer your questions on those, and you'll be able to better compare areas that you're looking at so you can decide whether or not Sequim, Washington is where you want to retire. Let's take a look at the taxes. In this video, I'll walk you through exactly which taxes a retired couple might expect. And first, here's what I might call the high-level picture. Washington is one of the few states with no state income tax, and that means, of course, that your Social Security, your pension, your IRA, or your 401k distributions, none of those are taxed at the state level. So here's how we'll proceed and what I want to share with you on this video. Number one, I want to talk about taxes you'll see in the ordinary daily life of a retiree. You're going to have sales taxes, property taxes, fuel taxes, vehicle taxes. And then number two, taxes on investments. Now, that's different. It's treated different in the state of Washington. And number three, what happens at death? In other words, the estate tax. And number four, I'm going to give you a couple of bonuses, some cost of living calculators for the Sequim area. All right, let's get into it. First, sales and use tax. So Washington state has a sales tax of 6.5%. On top of that, counties and cities and special districts can add local sales taxes. In Clallam County, where Sequim and Port Angeles are, the combined rate is 8.6%. The state rate of 6.5%, and then there's a 2.1% local sales tax. And inside the Sequim city limits, there's a little bit more. It's a total of 8.9% because of some local taxes in the city. Now, here's the good news. Essential groceries, unprepared food, and prescription drugs are exempt from sales tax. Thank God, huh? Because, food and prescription drugs, that's a main part of a retiree's budget, food especially there. But, of course, other goods, other products, other things you buy are subject to the sales tax. Of course, we're talking about clothing or home goods. Go to Home Depot, furniture, and so on. Now, let's talk about property tax, the next big category. If you own a home, you're going to pay property taxes to Clallam County and any local taxing districts on, schools and fires and roads. Property tax rate is based on the assessed value of your property, and the tax assessor in Clallam County is charged with assessing your home at its true fair market value. So they have a fairly extensive program for that, software for that they've been editing and tweaking for years. It's getting better and better. And it comes up with what they believe is the fair market value, or the 100% tax assessed value. The tax rate, the median tax rate, is 0.81%. In other words, it's about 0.8%. So if you have a home that is assessed at $750,000, take $750,000, multiply it by 0.0081, and you get $6,075. That's your annual Now, there are some deferrals and exemptions of property taxes. There's a low-income exemption or discount. And then if you have more than 1 acre and you have property that qualifies for either the agricultural classification or the forest classification, you can get a big discount or exemption on property taxes for that acreage. And that's very helpful. All right, let's talk about fuel taxes and gasoline taxes. So as of July 1st, 2025, Washington state gas tax rose from 49.4 cents per gallon to 55.4 cents per gallon. There is, of course, a federal gas tax on fuel, and that's 18.4 cents per gallon. So when you add those two together, it's about 75 cents. It's not as much as California, but Washington state has one of the highest fuel taxes. And so that's a big deal. Although for retirees who are no longer driving an hour to work and an hour back home on the LA freeways, you're going to save a lot of money because retirees aren't driving their car all day or running around in circles. You may only go to the grocery store a couple of times a week. So typical retiree isn't burning up much gas in Sequim, and that's a good thing. So you'll pay a sales tax when you buy a car, whether it's new or used, and it's based on the sales tax rate. If you buy a used car or a used boat, how do they determine the value? Well, first of all, you take your bill of sale to the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and if the price that you purchased it at, shown on the bill of sale, seems reasonable to them, then that's how much they base the tax on, the sales tax. But if it's way low, and there's nothing wrong with it, wasn't in an accident and all bent up, it's not for salvage, then the DMV is going to look at their computer and they're going to have something in there that gives them an idea of what the true fair market value may be. And they'll base that on things like the Kelley Blue Book. Now let's talk about capital gains or investment taxes. So one of the more recent changes in Washington is the capital gains excise tax. Since 2022, I believe, Washington imposed a 7% tax on long-term capital gains. So selling stocks or bonds or other investments above a certain threshold, which I believe is about $250,000 a year. So if you have gains greater than $250,000 in a single year, then there's going to be a 7% excise tax on those gains paid to the state. In 2025, there was a change. If your gains exceed $1 million in a single year, the portion above that is taxed at 9.9%, the top rate. A couple of notes that are relevant. The capital gains tax in Washington does not apply to gains from real estate, like your home, or gains within your retirement accounts, like your IRA or your 401k. Okay, let's talk about the estate tax, death taxes. Here's how it works in Washington, effective July 1st, 2025. For decedents dying between July 1st and December 31st, 2025, the estate tax exclusion is $3 million. So unless your estate is greater than $3 million, there is no estate tax. Now, the Washington estate tax is progressive, so there are marginal rates that rise with the size of your estate, as much as 35% as a top tier. Here's what the Washington estate tax brackets look like based on the size of your estate when you die. I just wanted to show this to you in case you were curious. Now, I did want to show you what would happen if you died with an estate of $3.2 million in the state of Washington. And since $3 million is exempt, if you scroll down here or look down at number 4, you'll see Washington State. $3 million is exempt, and so only $200,000 would be taxable. And at the 19% estate tax rate, your estate would pay $38,000. So that's not so bad if, based on $3.2 million estate. And then just for fun, I thought I'd show you what your tax liability would be if you died with a $7 million estate. Number 1, Washington. Well, $3 million is exempt, so there would be $4 million in your estate that's taxable. And you can see how the marginal rates there would tax it for a total of $610,000 in estate taxes in the state of Washington on a $7 million estate. Now, that doesn't count a federal estate tax. In terms of total tax burden, there's been some studies, and there's something called the CPA Practice Advisor. And this is an interesting site because they rank states based on total taxation. And Washington rates, guess what? Number 28, right about in the middle. What happens when you make your estate 100% exempt from estate tax? In other words, what are the implications of never having to pay Washington State estate tax? I'll tell you. Washington State suddenly becomes one of the most affordable tax jurisdictions for retirees in the U.S. How do I know this? Well, I was an attorney for 20 years and a certified estate planner, an asset protection expert, and a registered investment advisor. Wealthy people don't pay estate taxes. There are plenty of estate planning tools to avoid estate tax entirely. So what taxes are left for retirees? Well, there's the sales tax, but food and meds are exempt. And you're not buying a lot of toys when you're retired, so you're not paying a lot of sales tax on things anyway. At this phase in life, you're probably only going to buy 1 or 2 more vehicles anyway, and so you're not going to pay much in sales tax on vehicles. Our gas tax is high, but you're hardly driving your car anymore. And your property tax is only 0.8%. The truth is, for retirees, taxes are very reasonable in the state of Washington. What does all this mean? It means you can focus on what's important for your retirement. The climate and the weather, the healthcare system, lifestyle and the people, safety and crime stats, and finding your ideal home. And here's my little caveat and my little disclaimer. I did promise you a couple of bonuses. Go to my website, livinginsquim.com, and go to the menu where you'll see a power menu. And there you have an electric bill estimate and the cost of living estimate for the Sequim area. They're surprisingly accurate. I think you'll have fun with those. Well, I hope you find this video beneficial in terms of deciding where you're going to retire. Of course, I hope you retire in Sequim. It's a beautiful area, and I am an exclusive buyer's agent, so I hope I'll have the chance to talk to you. You can reach out to me anytime. The best way to reach me is simply to text me at my cell phone, 360-775-5424, and I will see you in the next video.